We meet again.
Indeed we do. Just meeting one of your coworkers yesterday.
Oh, really?
Joe Osborne.
Who?
Joe Osborne?
Oh,
I think I
yeah.
got the name right. Yeah. Based over here, not too far away from me. He was over speaking at our little Kubernetes Community Days DC event yesterday.
Oh, you said something about that. Is it, are you part of the organization with that, or?
Yeah, I was helping put it together. It was, we probably need more help to put it together, but we got a little event put together and got him in there to do a little bit of a talk. It was interesting though, because he was timing that between all kinds of chaos earlier in the day and then flying off to California after the event. So he kind of showed up, gave his talk, and then ran away.
Wonder what he's doing in California. Yeah. Yeah, John's great.
Yeah.
That's cool that you guys live that close.
Yeah, so we'll have to probably catch up a little bit more in the future. Always good to know you got connections to people that do interesting stuff nearby.
Yeah, that's what's the major city near you?
I'm in Fairfax, Northern Virginia. And so he's, I don't know, a couple miles away probably. Not bad at all.
Hello, Brian. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything on the agenda, but
there was a
I just wanted
bunch
to.
of stuff on the agenda, but I don't know how much of it. The one thing I'd kind of want to talk about is from Lockie, and he apparently has a little comment there says out for jury duty. So maybe not on there. Sajay had another one saying he needed people to approve the refers field getting renamed, and we approved it. So I think that part is all solid and finished up.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, did we? We might have a different one. I might be thinking of a different one. We merged a distribution spec. He's got an image spec open as well. And I've approved that one. We just need one more. But we need someone.
Where is that image spec?
Image spec. So we need an image spec maintainer on that one. Steve-O, VBATs, someone like that. Or
yeah. We should have had someone
John.
else.
Yeah.
We should have had someone else put it. Yeah, Lockie's issue was kind of what I wanted to talk about. So
yeah, his
I was going to ask you
looks
exactly
interesting.
question.
Yeah, I know when we were putting this, getting everything merged in there, one of the comments was, hey, we can merge this right now knowing that it's not tagged yet. And so jump in too quick and say, okay, now let's tag it. We might upset some people. So it does feel like a good plan to give it some time for folks to actually get some implementations, get some experience with this so that they can say, yeah, we've tried out, it actually works. Things along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading it right now. The 952 one. So yeah, let's talk about the checkboxes. So closure of outstanding tasks. Is there anything left?
We're getting pretty close on that. Michael Brown, which Michael Brown do we have today?
Me, AWS Michael Brown.
Okay. I was going to see if we had my IBM cohort here, because I think he had a few of the outstanding tests that we haven't done yet. So womp womp, we lost on that one. We're doing pretty good.
I'm your least preferred Michael Brown.
No, it's a womp womp for us. That womp womp for us that we don't get somebody in here to tell us everything we haven't done yet. Wrong, Michael. You're-
Michael.
you are my
I'll just
favorite
change my
Michael
name to wrong Michael Brown.
I
This
like
is
you
not
both
ending well.
equally. I cannot select my favorite Michael Brown. That would be like pick my favorite cohort and all this stuff. Before I dig myself in any deeper, let's see. So I know he had a couple of items on there that we haven't done. Otherwise, we're getting really close. We just have the one reviewer left for one of Sajay's, and then we've got that merged. So I think we're looking pretty good there. And I don't think we have a second reviewer on this call for image spec. Not that I'm seeing yet. So that covers outstanding task conformance test. Josh, with your mouth full, I'll pick on you. You're the one that knows
Yeah.
more about conformance tests than anything else.
So, so he opened this on image spec, but I
Mostly
kind of am reading
distributions.
this as a both.
Yeah.
We could definitely do conformance on the distribution spec side using that harness. My kind of question is, so are we going to treat if you don't have some of these features as a failure to conform to a 1.1, or what are people's thoughts on that? Because people could pull down the 1.0 tag and the test will pass, and you can say you're a 1.0 compliant, but not 1.1. Or we can just.
I was leaning that direction to say if you want to be 1.1 conformant, support the new APIs, we still have the 1.0 that you can always go back to and say that you're conformant with the old version. It lets people play both sides of that, but us giving it a little bit more value of what the conformance test actually means.
Okay.
Can I add?
Go ahead.
So Lucky opened this issue. I mean, he unfortunately wasn't jury duty, so he couldn't make it. What he mentioned before he left was these are items to consider. Doesn't mean we must have them, but more like what is an agreed upon checklist of items that we can do, so that maintainers are happy in cutting. Like I think people are already assuming 1.1. So have we agreed on 1.1 as a tag that we want to cut, or like 1.1 RC or draft? Like we need a draft version of the specification also. The main criteria was so that other tools and other people who are kind of waiting on some tag that they can take dependency on would kind of like light up, and they can take those types like the new descriptor and the new artifact and the manifest. That was the motivation. So we can keep the bar low to kind of get a draft release if we want to, or go all the way and say that, okay, this is the plan for draft. This is the plan for 1.1, and 1.1 will come if draft is not seen any changes for the next 2 to 3 months or 6 months or whatever time frame. So the checklist is more like just to kind of get the conversation started. So what's the general direction we want to take is what's the discussion that I was hoping we could kind of like land on. What kind of a tag do people want, and what are they happy with? If it's a draft, would that be good enough?
I'm leaning toward 1.1. I think there was some consensus on that last time. Doing an RC sounds like a good plan to me. I see we've done that before on like the 1.0 release, and so getting something out there saying it's a 1.1 R.0 RC for just to raise some visibility sounds like a good plan. We also, not to detract from this, I still want to focus on this, but there's also the other request to the 1.0.3, I think was, to have a couple of those things preceding all the work we did with this, get that pulled together and merged as a tag. I just don't know if there's some coordination we need to do between cutting that tag and cutting an RC for this.
I'm in big support of doing RCs just to flex the release muscle. Like we don't do this very often. and stuff's probably broken and we should practice. So even if it is like today, I think it'd be worthwhile, at least maybe once we figure out the wording stuff, fix all the wording. But I also think 1.1 makes total sense. I think the way that we went through the working group was to be backwards compatible. And if my understanding of Semver is correct, that's the correct tag for both of these.
Yeah, hopefully I haven't broken any of the release processes with all my changes to GitHub Actions lately. I did want to sit down with VBATs or whoever has been doing some of the releases over on Image Spec and see how we need to work that process over there to cut like a 1.0.3 in general. So I think he's been doing a few of the recent releases, right?
Yeah, I can't speak for Image Spec, but distribution spec, I've needed him there to help with. So I think it would be helpful to go through that process, even if we're not ready. But
Is our normal process that we just commit to a branch and then tag on the branch? Because we got the v1.0 branch, and so you no.
there's a governance thing, and I see Sam's here. There's like a governance thing where you have to propose the commit on the mailing list. And then, yeah, there's a process. I can pull up an example of it, but it's kind of, I don't know if this applies to RCs or not. But on the distribution spec side, it actually generates like a PDF that you could print out with the spec on it.
But what's the process between the tag and the v1.0 branch? Because the tag on the branch, does the branch come first or is the branch retroactive? Because we have both. We have a tag 1.0.0 and we have a v1.0 branch.
I'm just seeing that now. I don't know anything about that.
That's where I want to pull in someone like VBATs or whoever's been doing some of these before. Say, what do we need to do? But yeah, the governance part of getting that approved on the mailing list, that's important as well.
So I'm looking at the history. I think there was the security, the content type security CVE, and the date seems to line up with that. So I think we had a bunch of things that happened. So that v1.0 branch is for if we needed to patch things onto for like a v1.0.2 patch release. So I would ignore that in the context of the reference type stuff.
So ignore it for that, but I'm also thinking about when we do a v1.1 release, do we need to make a branch for that? And also we're thinking of the 1.0.3 release.
I don't think we could do that. I don't think we need to until we ended up having a security thing for v1.1.1 or something like that. But this did not exist before November 2021. So
got it.
That's what that is.
So there are tags for 1.0.rc already. Can we maybe on the issue comment that if you want to do 1.1-rc, and then maybe we can send an email to the mailing list saying that, hey, VBATs, can you help us with cutting this tag? If there's no outstanding issue for RC release, and then have these other checklists before GA. That's kind of like maybe we'll at least get a tag out so that others can use these types and get a draft out, because I think people are waiting to kind of like have dependency on making sure that, okay, it's checked in the main, what next? How can we consume this thing? Does that make sense?
I would be happy to cut it today. I know in the past when we did distribution spec, RCs, it went through the mailing list. I don't know how strict we want to be with that, but I can pull up a mailing. I can pull up an email that I sent for distribution spec RC, but it's like you put it up, you leave it open for a week. At the same time, we could just cut it right now, I think, if someone's a maintainer. So I don't know how strict you want to be.
So I understand the concept. I think we don't want to cut it right now per se, just because we have a few PRs that are still sitting out there in terms of fixing up various items in there.
You're talking about cutting spec releases?
Yeah, we're looking at what the process is to do like a RC candidate, just to get it a little more visible.
Yeah, basically, it's like you would expect, right? We need to have a vote for the maintainers, and it's got to be a majority. It might be super majority. I have to read the requirements. It's been a few people that haven't chimed in yet, and we need to do some one-on-ones with them. Go do some reviews and make sure that they've actually.
Is that including doing an RC release?
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, are we ready to push this, right? And then yeah, final vote, or at least we need to get some review comments. I think we'd feel a little better about it. That's all. And when we say we, I mean I. Maybe set up a meeting for the distribution team, or use our other communication threads. Get a little chat going.
So I'm looking at it. I just posted links. We should make sure these get into the notes. So you open a PR that changes a Go file from -dev to the RC, or if it's a release, you change it to empty string. Then you open a PR with that, and then you send an email out. Here's a PR to tag this commit as this, and then you make another commit. I wish Feedbacks was here. You make another commit to revert it back then.
I did it once, Josh. It's not, yeah, it just really just go back to the last time we did it and look at the sequence, right? Shouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, I think the one I shared, I actually messed up, but you basically don't, on main, it should always say -dev, and I'm not exactly sure how that works, but.
Yeah, generally I would open up an issue, right? Saying that we'd like to make a new release and go through a candidate cycle to try to force the feedback and get the feedback, right? So I open an issue and, go over the list of pull requests, I guess, that were the major changes to make it a little easier for the reviewers. And then we should probably hold a special call with the set of maintainers, if we can find a date, and go over everything. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But yeah, Samuel's commenting, and yeah, it was super majority. So we'll need some voters to get that through. And due to the changes, I guess we'll meet. Do we want to do image first and then distribution because of the changes?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And just, I guess, then link the issues and explain it's going to be very quickly from one to the next. So let's get some reviews from both sides.
And looking at it, looks like the PR has 2 commits in the PR itself. At least I'm looking at the 1.0 right now. And so it sets it and unsets it in the same PR. That was 1.0. That wasn't the release candidate one.
I just want to caveat
Yeah.
that I messed this up. So we should ping VBATs. Also run C. They last year had like dozens and dozens of releases that Alexa worked on, and we could look at what they did, because I think they were doing that a lot. But I think all of the repos kind of follow the same type of process, and the CI works the same.
I don't know if my audio is working, but the run C release process is slightly different. There's a difference between projects and
Okay.
specifications.
Yeah, even the
Look at that.
maintainers was a little different for run C due to, coming over initially as a running binary.
I just want to make sure, are we talking about, Sajay, the same thing that you're suggesting, or?
Yeah, it's basically, I think what I'm hearing is, let's get a vote out, put a candidate tag, and schedule a meeting with the maintainers to agree on if this is a good enough cut for RC. I don't have a plan for GA yet, because let's get the RC done first, and then we can kind of go to GA is my take. And once we kind of have other people responding back that the spec is good enough, maybe we can then open up the discussion for GA tag separately.
Yeah, I'd hope in the issue that we open up, we'd have a list of the, the projects that need to test the release candidate, right?
Okay.
We can probably push a couple of PRs and check it out. Run C, container runtimes, distribution,
Right.
and whatever list you can come up with, right? We probably need some cohorts on this.
I just want to clarify, having a meeting is just
Education.
not required, right? We want to.
No,
Yeah,
just,
okay.
they're going to have lots of questions, or if they don't, we wrote,
Yeah,
well
I'm just
enough.
saying we've had lots of meetings, and so
Yeah.
It could be the case that we put up the RC and we just get a bunch of LGTMs,
Yes.
and that's that. Yeah.
Very, very true. And usually the votes, they've gone pretty quickly in distribution, not so fast, not as fast in image in the past. You don't want to know how long it took to get through the release candidates for 1.0. I'm not expecting that this time, though.
That's what I'm
I
hoping
remember-
for, release candidate only. I'm not talking about GA yet.
And to be fair, right, the last time we went through the release candidates with production code from Kubernetes and all the container runtime.
Right.
So the release candidates have a little more cachet, if you will, than you would expect with a normal kind of repo. And that's why I'm saying, yeah, we probably need a vote for it. Because you're basically saying, yeah, here you go. This is what we're probably going to be shipping with small changes.
So what next? Would Josh, do you want to open the issue, or do you want me or Brandon or somebody to open the issue on the 2 repos? I mean, at least for image spec, it's 1.1-RC1. So
before we do
might be
that,
zero.
It should be a maintainer from.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think we should get this one. We should get the 950 in. I'm going to bug like Steve-O right now or something. But is there anything remaining?
And Steve-O is one of the guys that say, yeah, it'd be really great if we could get his feedback.
Yeah, this one was just the rename here. So this is where we need Steve or VBATS, John, someone in that list to come in here and hit approve on
One
this
more.
one. Yeah.
Did I not hit green? Was it up to edit it after?
I think you probably hit yes on it. Yeah, you did hit yes, but you're not green on image spec.
Okay, image spec. Yeah, no, you can't.
So I did want to say, in addition to that, so we've got approve a 950, and that'll be the key piece I think we have remaining. We had our checklist, and Mike, since you're here, I think everything on this list that's remaining was under your name. And so I wanted to touch base with you and figure out what else was on here that we needed to solve, because I wasn't sure where you're going with some of these things. So I wanted to double check with you.
That's a long discussion. You want to get on the calendar or something, maybe this afternoon or tomorrow? Tomorrow's probably a little better. You and I can just go over
The other restrictions and allowances for the field.
yeah, I mean, it was basically just, I didn't think it was strict enough and you were trying to keep it loose. So we had a little bit of a disagreement on some of the language. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking of sorting that out. Do we need to sort that out before we do an RC, or that's something we can wait until afterwards? And so we don't, that's not binding for this.
It's not binding for this. It can be a part of
Okay.
that overall discussion.
And the other one, I think you were looking at implied for the refer when it wasn't there in the index. I think that's, if the refer is not there,
It doesn't say what does it mean, right?
Well, if the refer in there, you kind of fall back to what it means now, which is that it's not a refer or subject, use a new language here. It's not a subject to another image out there. And so it's treated just like something like a Helm chart being pushed, like an artifact up there.
Right, but it's referenced in the index. Does that mean anything? You wouldn't normally put a Helm chart in an image index, and you couldn't before, but now you can, right? As an artifact type under an IANA spec, right?
You can't put in Helm chart as an index today.
Not as an artifact type, but specified under IANA, it would have to be a blob as an image index, right? With an annotation, I guess. I'm not sure how they separate today Helm charts as an OCI image versus an artifact image in a OCI registry, if you will, that doesn't have support for artifacts.
So the Helm chart today is pushed up with the image manifest and in a custom media
As a
type.
blob, or
As a image man. Let me pull it up and all.
it's an image, it's got a blob, and then by naming maybe or something.
Let me
I wasn't trying
give
to
me
derail.
1 second.
I'm just-
Yeah, give me 1 second. Go ahead and feel free to chat amongst yourselves, and I'll pull it up here 1 second. That wasn't cutting off the conversation. That was just me going on mute for a minute here.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I guess what I'm basically saying here is that because you have added a new field, right, or a new type, if you will, in the list of images and artifacts now in an image index, what does it mean if there's no refer there, right? Obviously, you can't refer to the index because there is no digest yet for it, right, until it is there. And that'll be a different value for anything you put in that array. But it sort of made sense to me that something that has a artifact has an identity reference for itself, right?
Yeah, so today they ship it up as a, sorry, I like the wrong line here, as an image manifest, and it just has a custom config with their own media type. This is our definition of how you're supposed to be pushing artifacts today. and then their own blob for whatever their layer is, of their own content type on their layer. So they're
So a
following,
non-OCI custom config media type.
yeah, they're following the OCI definition of here's how you're supposed to be pushing an artifact. Where I'm going with that is you can still put this inside of an index. So I could do something like this where I just say, making an index here with get my options for doing this thing. Let me say ref of this reference, and then I can even say descriptor annotation here of helm equals true or something like that. Put some funny annotation in there.
Right, some kind of
And-
an annotation. Yeah.
Yeah, and then say it's localhost charts.
And that was the
spider,
best I could think of, is that you might have an annotation to try to
spider,
identify.
list.
I mean, obviously,
Okay.
it's not a platform image, right?
Yeah, so if I did that, it's not a platform image, but it doesn't mean that I can't take that Helm chart that's already there.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
that's the
in an
way you
index.
do that today, right? Now, and I guess what I'm asking is, how does that map today? How will that map to an artifact, right? That's attached to an index, as opposed to an artifact that's referring to a manifest? Or is that still possible? We
I'd
don't
like
have
to-
to have an answer for it. It just seems to me like an obvious use case. Right?
I don't
You
quite
can add
follow
an
the question.
artifact to an index, and that'll be, for that index.
Yeah, I don't quite follow the question because if it doesn't have the refers field on there, then it's not subject to the refers API. It's its own thing at that point.
That's right. It would just be an artifact that's pulled down with the index when you go through and pull all of the manifests listed.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we open whatever we're discussing right now, open as an issue or something. And so Steve went ahead and approved number 950.
Cool.
So I'm wondering for the rest of this call, if it's a good use of our time to walk through the release process together and get that email out. If it gets shot down, it gets shot down. But I think it'd be nice for us all to understand that process and
Yep.
kind of move forward.
Yeah.
And this.
That's fair.
release-
Brandon and I can. That's all I'm saying. Brandon and I can get offline and
Awesome.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
And so for this stuff, Mike, since we got the remaining task as this issue, can you take your items that you're coming up with and make those separate issues like Josh is saying?
Well, yep. Thanks.
Cool. All right. So how do we do this release thing?
So I went and looked back at image spec 1.0 release. There was a milestone associated with it that had a set of burned down items. And so it's a little bit of a project management thing that maybe we need Vincent or somebody's help to do to create a milestone, then tag. But for RC, I could not find a burn down list. I only found it for 1.0.
The milestone should exist for each of these for 1.1 because I've been tagging things with that.
Okay.
Now I need to find where milestones are again.
Right.
Label.
Here we go. I guess I can share my screen if I finally found it. Okay, so over in like if I pulled up pull request or even issues, I'm sure it was probably over there as well. There was milestones over here, so I click on that. Pull up our 1.1 milestone. That was also kind of while I was sorting some of these things out. So we got a remaining task. That one I think we are done with. And then let's see. This one I'd like to see get in there at some point, but I don't mind if that gets pushed into a later RC. And then this is the one, Sajay, that I think you just got approved. Of course, now my laptop is getting slow.
There was a post 1.0. I don't know if that was, we needed to go through those two, but yeah, we'll have to go through. That's just a label tagging.
Yeah, my laptop is not happy with all the tabs I've decided to open today in the browser. Maybe I should have someone else try this one. Anyone else feel like driving while this thing is not going to work for me right now?
I could, but I can't. I'm not a maintainer, so I can't.
I'll try.
I'm trying to hit stop share on this thing. There it goes.
We might also want to fork to a release. Instead of just, pushing everything in main,
So does that work?
new branch, yeah.
Can folks see my screen or?
Yes.
All right, Brandon, what did you want me to do?
I think Josh is the one that knows this better than me. I was just going through to start cleaning up some of these things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I don't know that the milestone is actually required for what we need to do right now. I think it's I think
It's
we
just an
just need
aid.
to we just need to get a list of the commits that have happened since the last release, and just say this many commits. And I think the milestone thing is helpful just for us to know what's in there, but I don't think it's required. I think you just need to pull up the Git log and count. But I'm trying to put in the HackMD right now, like the steps.
Okay. So so do we want to use this issue to vote, or should I just create another one with a 1.1-ORC for voting?
I think a new one.
Okay. I'll craft that. Just put some notes here and then I'll complete it later today. Okay, I'll put in the links that Sam provided earlier, which is the governance, as well as maybe a link to the prior release, and add a link to the Carter release issue as well, just to kind of put everything in one place. Anything else at this point?
Yeah, there. One of the links I put in the chat, maybe you can pull up.
Sure.
The 264 distribution stuff.
We'll usually put a checklist there, Sanjay, of course, of the existing maintainers.
Checklist here.
Yeah, a list of each maintainer in the.
Okay.
Just for, because we can edit the file and put our check mark in there, as well as saying LGTM or SGTM.
How do you? I'm sorry. How do you want me to do this? Do you want me to create another file or?
Yeah, no. Right here in the opening issue, generally you'll have a list of maintainers.
And
bracket space bracket. next to each one of them
Okay.
for,
And-
for tick marks.
Okay, sounds good. I'll do the checklist as well. All right. Anything else before I move on to this one, or? So this was 1.1 RC3, right?
Yeah, generally the checklist, Sanjay, isn't the same as the voting list, but you can link the two in an issue.
Mike, do you have an example? I just cannot find an example of what you're talking about.
Of a vote.
Yeah, with the I feel like I've seen it. I can't find one.
It's like the same for when we vote for adding a maintainer.
So I think the thing
I'll
is,
pop you a link here.
yeah, the thing is, I think the vote actually must happen on the mailing list. And then the mailing list must just point to this PR. So I don't think the contents of the PR really matter. What needs to be in the PR is the specs.go needs to change from -dev to something needs to change.
Yeah, it used to be that it all had to be in the email, the votes, but
Yeah, but we've got an issue here, and we've also got a pull request that we're looking at. And so I do have the pull request from the 1.0.0 release in the chat earlier. That was the pull 274. That kind of shows the back and forth that we did on the file. And so the file had the version committed and then the dev committed in a separate commit. And so those two commits, one triggered the CI and the other one put it back to the normal state.
So sorry, Sajay, you're probably getting so much instructions here.
I'm trying to aggregate everything up, put it on the side, and then it's better to get more information and then sift through
Okay.
no information, right?
So the actual PR contents, the actual PR contents have to modify that last file that I put in there and changing version minor from 0 to 1, version patch from 2 to 0, and version dev to RC0 or RC1. I don't know what's correct there. And that's the actual contents of the PR. The text in the PR, it doesn't seem to have a format. You can say these are the commits that have happened since 1.0.2. But it doesn't seem to be very consistent. Like one of the releases, VBATS just has a git command that he posted. But yeah, the actual PR that you must email out should be the change to this file. Someone correct me
My
if I'm
screen
wrong.
is behaving a little better if you want me to share the one I'm thinking of that might answer what you're thinking of.
Yeah, go for it.
Because this was the 2 commit. When we did the 1.0 final, there was the conversation there that said, hey, you know, this is whatever 0 things. And I think everybody went in there and did their look good to me in there. But I had 2 commits. And I think this is what you were trying to figure out, Josh, that you were doing before, where you did it right for the 1.0 on this one, where 2 commits. The first one goes in here and sets, like it changed this was the 1.0, it was already RC before, so you just took the RC out of there. But we'll be adding an RC1 to ours. And then there's a second commit in that same pull request. And the second commit takes out that, puts it back to dev.
Okay, that makes it easy to tag the specific digest, right? I think that might be the trick here.
I think the trick is you're going to end up tagging this one, but you don't want this one to stay in the repo. And so you end up tagging this one commit. Is that what you're thinking, Josh?
That sounds correct. Yeah, you're gonna tag this thing that's, yes. that's
This
correct.
one with the release on there.
And then don't
And
squash.
then come back.
And do not squash the
Correct.
merge. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to share. I'll give it back to you, Sachi.
So one of us can probably pick up the PR, and we can create the vote issue with this PR. And once the vote is done, we merge the PR in. Is that the idea?
Yes, but
I don't-
the vote must occur on the mailing list, from what I understand.
Yeah, and I don't
It's a
see.
technicality, but
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Somehow we managed to get the vote, and then, but from a process perspective, I think the PR is important to kind of like toggle this, get one commit with RC1, 1.1.0-RC1, and then once the vote is done, the checklist, somebody will go check.
somebody manually pushes
The majority will update the
I
checklist.
think the way to say it, Josh, is you have to publish that it's happening on the mailing list. But the actual vote itself can happen there or in the
Sure, as long as you have the supermajority across whatever platform.
whatever list of things. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was going
but-
to say, I don't see in the 1.0 release any issue linked to this. It's just people in the pull request itself giving a bunch of LGTMs, and then you have a supermajority over there. So we might not need a separate issue, but there is an email that gets sent out.
Great, we have an ambiguous should. Anyway, that's just kind of how it's been done. I think the actual approval should happen on GitHub, honestly. But the important part, I think, is it's left open for a week. And then when you do merge it, the commit that you're asking to tag, somebody manually tags it. In this case, it's always been Vince. And then I think on your laptop, you just like actually run some make thing. I don't think there's any CI in here. You run some make thing that produces a PDF with Docker and you upload it, and that's it.
So is the release done by hand, or is that all CI that actually picks up that commit? And
No, it's by
figures it out.
hand. It's by hand. Almost positive.
oh, good times.
We
Someone
could
should work on
change
a
that.
GitHub
Maybe
action.
through this process, we can
Yeah.
change the release process, because it sounds like this should be a little easier than it is. That'd actually be great.
If it's not easier, it should probably at least be documented. And I think, the stuff on the government stuff is important, but I'm also thinking all the technical parts of what happens on the repo is neat as well.
Yeah, we actually build a PDF with the tools.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking is there actually is, when this thing is tagged, a GitHub action. We do have a release action that triggers off the V whatever.
Right.
And it's looking for the version, all that good stuff, running the conformance. I thought something here might have been building, but I guess not. Yeah, it'd be good to add in here, if it's not already done, the building of the PDF. It's pushing something, but it's not putting it into all the release files. So triggering a release off of the tag would be nice. Something for the future.
Do we want to call it early today and plan that Sajay will do a bunch of work for us, and
I'll do the PR on the issue.
should we do the same on distribution spec, or should we wait till this one goes through? Because I can handle the distribution spec.
Yeah, I mean, distribution spec, if you can handle that, be easier. I'll do it for image spec. And I think once we get the votes, and let's have the discussion. I think that's important.
Okay.
Thanks for everybody for pointing all these things, because I don't know where I need to look for this. The links were helpful. Yes, we'll use the previous issues to kind of like make this process a little better. I think documenting this after this is done might also help.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll be at least a couple weeks, unfortunately, even though we're done. Yeah, maybe through this process, we can improve the process in the process. But thank you for volunteering, Sajay, and yeah, just keep us posted. Maybe just put something in Slack or something like, hey.
Yeah, once the issue is open, I think I'll draft the email for the mailing list as well. This is all for release candidate only, so we don't have to, at least right now, worry about the 1.1 itself.
Thumbs up
Awesome.
here.
Yep, let's get it out. Let's do it.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Guys.
See you, Senator.
Really appreciate it again. Thank you.
Good time.